Hey, everybody, it's Doug Green, and I'm the publisher of Technology Reseller News. And we're back with part 2 of our Pots and Shots series. We've got Jake Jacoby of TELCLOUD. Jake, thank you for joining me again today.
Yeah, good to see you again, Doug. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So, for everybody who may have missed our first one, or if you saw it, this is the second part of our ongoing series on Pots and Shots. We're going to be discussing about the sunset of pots. We're also having an interesting tour of the most excellent tequilas in the whole wide world. So, Jake, we'll just jump right into this. You know, maintaining aging pots line has become increasingly expensive. What are some of the primary reasons these costs keep on rising?
Yeah, so it's really the POTS lines are being decommissioned, right? The telecommunication companies that are in charge of or always have had these POTS lines, they want to get out of the business. If you think about it, like 100 years ago, everything was copper, and so like we talked about last time, most of the world has moved to voice over IP or cellular connectivity, and so what that means is you still have this copper infrastructure, but really only 5 to 10% of it is being used. Well, if you're a telecommunication company, you still have to maintain that infrastructure, which is very costly. So what do? You have to raise the price in order to cover the cost. And again, they're going away. So, back in 16, 17, and then finally in 2019, telecommunication companies went to the FCC and said, hey, look, we need to get out of this business. They're like, well, we have to have a plan around that, right? You can't just shut down. This is a utility. And so the FCC finally granted them the ability to go ahead and turn these off, but also deregulate. That's what's really happened and what's driven the cost of these lines up. Because there's less of the lines and same infrastructure, they have to charge for them. So they've continually raised the rates. So that's why you're seeing before COVID, a POTS line was on average $65. Now we're seeing it in the hundreds or thousands of dollars, right? Very, very expensive. And like we talked about last time, this legacy equipment still requires these lines. So what do you do about it, right? And so telecommunication companies have to charge, and they continue to charge. And then as soon as the revenue doesn't exceed the cost, that's when they shut them down. So that's really what we're seeing. That makes sense?
So, yeah, it does. And you guys, and we discussed this in Nashville and doing this podcast series, you guys have a different approach. You have a unique take on how this works out. And you also have taken the reseller's point of view into account as an alternative, as a modern approach to aging infrastructure.
Right.
Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So when you think about it, right? So like we talked about last time, there's over 1 billion lines globally, right? And this shutdown is happening in the United States. There's about 130 million lines, about 100 in residential, 25 to 30 million are in the business, so commercial side. And so when you think about these lines being shut down, they're really being shut down over the next 2 to 3 years, right? It's a lot of lines to convert in a very short amount of time. So how do you do that, right? The only way you really do that is have an army of telecommunication providers. We took the approach of resellers to go out and help their customers, right? There's no one company that's going to go and solve that for all of those customers. So we have some competitors that sell a box, which is an approach, right? To go out and replace, a line, bring that to the customer. We've taken an approach where we don't sell direct. We enable reseller partners. We give them everything that they need to be successful in the business. We give them the technology, the support, the platform, the billing, everything that they need. They can take the pieces that they need, leave what they don't. And then we enable them to go out and help their own customers, right? And so if you think about it, we're enabling hundreds, eventually thousands of resellers to go help their own customers. And that's the only way that we're really going to get this done in the short time frame that we have to convert all of these lines.
Now, is this a bottom line opportunity?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so here's the thing is, if you look at, like we said, the cost of these lines going up, right? So customers are feeling the pain. They're feeling the pain of either lines being disconnected, lines not working because this aging copper needs to be maintained, and it's not. And then the high cost, right? So, but on the other side, like we talked about in the last podcast, this legacy equipment is not going away anytime soon. So, and they require the POTS line. So you either have to upgrade legacy equipment, which is very costly, or you have to find an alternative that allows for that legacy equipment to still work. That's where POTS line replacement comes into play, where you have this alternative. Now, just because the POTS lines are going away doesn't mean that that need for that POTS line is going away. So as a reseller, when you bring this solution to your customers, you could have a 15 to 20 year recurring revenue stream and, you know, a solution for your customers long term. So it's very profitable for our resellers. It's good for the customers because they're lowering their costs. They're not paying the exorbitant, you know, dollar amount that they're paying today, and they get a solution that works and is guaranteed to work. Does that make sense?
So it does. And is that also part of how you start this conversation? Because I'm wondering, how do you even, if you're a reseller or partner, MSP, how do you even start talking to people about this?
That's a great question. And a lot of our resellers are worried, you know, when it comes to telecommunications, sometimes things get very complex. At TELCLOUD, we try to make it very simple, right? So we give our resellers, we arm them with collateral, with education, with understanding, and then the support behind it. But honestly, Doug, at the end of the day, it's just simply asking your customer, do they still have POTS lines? What does their bill look like, right? Are they having any issues? A lot of organizations just aren't asking the question. And by simply asking the question, what are they doing today? It's a very easy way to go into and solve these needs for the customers. And well, in this series, we'll talk about more opportunities that you can uncover. But, you know, I encourage these, you know, the resellers to come talk to TELCLOUD, see if we're a good fit for you, and just start asking the question to your customers, you know, how can you help them? So.
And now it's part of our show and series to talk about tequila. So what tequila do you have for us today?
Right. So last week we talked about, or last time we talked about Clase Azul, and we talked about the difference in tequila. So tequila, and Doug, you and I talked a little bit about this. It starts out as a Blanco, and they age it. They age it different ways, but typically in oak barrels. The tequila today that one of my second favorite tequilas is a tequila called Dos Artes. And so this is their Blanco tequila. So it has not been aged at all. This one has a vanilla note to it. It's very smooth. It's not too sweet. I don't like a lot of sugar, but so this is, again, drink it neat. You're going to have a harder time finding this one, but you can find it online. And they have, you know, all the Repo, the Añejo, Extra Añejo, but try this one. It's Dos Artes. It's a Blanco tequila, hand painted bottle, beautiful bottle. And it, you know, anyways, I recommend this.
All right. Well, we're continuing our tour of world famous tequila and also our tour through the solution to the POTS crisis. It's a great opportunity for the resellers and MSPs. If you missed our first podcast, be sure to tune into that one as well. It's available on TR. But for now, Jake, thank you very much indeed for joining me today. Where can we learn more about TELCLOUD?
Thank you, Doug. Yeah, so telcloud.com. You know, definitely look us up there or give us a call at 844-900-2270. We look forward to talking to you.
Well, thank you very much indeed. And everybody join us next week. We're going to be talking about operational inefficiencies. But for now, thanks very much indeed.
Thanks, Doug.